cardiac arrest. Amid soaring tensions with EU over Greenland, Donald Trump writes to Norwegian Prime Minister, says he no longer has an obligation to think purely of peace because he was not awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. We begin this edition with some breaking news that's coming in. Prime Minister Modi is meeting with the UAE President in the national capital. Remember, the UAE President is on a two-day visit to India. That meeting is currently underway. The Prime Minister there, in fact, receiving the UAE President on the tarmac. That ceremonial welcome being accorded to him as he begins his state visit. Zaka Jacob, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more perspective on this. Zaka, significant meeting and significant optics there as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's more than just symbolism because Prime Minister Modi doesn't very often go to the airport to receive visiting heads of state. He's done that very rarely in the last 10 years in office, maybe a handful of leaders. You saw him last month when President Putin had visited India, had gone to the airport. So it's more than just symbolism. I think it's also underlining the importance of this relationship. Remember, the UAE is India's largest trading partner in West Asia. It comes at a time when there is great sort of churn that's happening both within the region and globally, of course, imposed by the Trump tariffs. In the region, of course, there is this ongoing power struggle that's happening between the UAE and Saudi Arabia. You saw a few weeks ago how there was an attack by Saudi Arabia, a missile attack on a ship which they allege was carrying weapons sent by the UAE meant for rebels in Yemen. So there is this big fight for control that's happening in Yemen between the Saudi-recognized government and the militias who are recognized by the UAE, who are trying to fight the Saudi-recognized and the international recognized government there. So there is a period of great churn that's happening. Also, in terms of the global picture, remember the Trump-imposed tariffs have really upended global trade, and particularly for India because it hasn't signed up the or ironed out the differences in the trade negotiations, and therefore India and the US so far have not arrived at a negotiated trade settlement. As a result of which, a lot of Indian exporters, we're given to understand, are rerouting their products, their goods and merchandise through the UAE, through ports in Dubai. So I think that is again something that will come up. But I think the most crucial one, we don't know if this will be announced at the end of the visit. Mind you, the visit is just barely a few hours. So the most crucial one that people are looking out for is whether there will be an announcement of any kind of mutual defense agreement, much like what we saw between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. If such an announcement does come through at the end of this meeting, we will have a formal press statement by both leaders. They will come out and interact with the press. So we will know if an MOU is signed for a mutual defense agreement between both countries. If that happens, that will be seen purely from the prism of countering this coming together of Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, because they signed a mutual defense agreement last year in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor. So this will send out a very, very clear signal that, look, India too has a wide range of options in the Middle East. There are, of course, other multilateral issues that they will discuss, the two leaders. IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe corridor is something that will be top of the agenda to discuss as well. The future of Gaza. Remember, this comes just a day after Prime Minister Modi was formally invited by President Donald Trump to become part of the Board of Peace in Gaza. India has still not committed to whether or not it will participate in the Board of Peace. This will again be discussed between the UAE President and the Prime Minister. So it's going to be a series of discussions that they will have this evening. And like I said, that will be followed by a dinner. But I think it's going to be critical to watch out for any agreements on trade, whether there is any kind of human resources exchange. Remember, 4 million plus Indian expats live and work in the UAE. I think about 18% of all of India's remittances come from the UAE. So I think that's going to be, again, a critical one. But the most important one would be to watch out for any kind of mutual defense pact or treaty.
Well, apart from the bilateral issues, like you highlighted, Zaka, the issue of this Gaza Peace Board is also something that could come up between the two world leaders. UAE has welcomed this phase or this plan that Donald Trump has put in motion. Is it something that the UAE president could be nudging India towards, given the kind of position that India has? We make good with both sides, the Western world and the Arab states, and India could very well be a bridge between the two.
Well, certainly this will come up in discussion, no doubt about it. And like you rightly said, the UAE has also been extended an invitation and they will likely be part of this board. So will Saudi Arabia. So will many other countries in the region. But for India, I think the stakes are different. First of all, India and the US are not exactly in the best of terms right now because of this unsettled trade and tariff issue. Second of all, the Prime Minister did not go on October 9th to Egypt and to Israel, of course, when that whole peace ceremony was happening. And also the concern for India is India is now again being hyphenated with Pakistan. The invitation was extended to Pakistan as well, and Pakistan might likely be part of this board of peace. But if India were to be sort of willingly a part of this board of peace, not to mention this $1 billion entry fee that Trump will be charging, which of course has to come from the taxpayer. Again, is there any sound rationale for why India should be spending $1 billion of taxpayer money to be part of this board of peace? But again, willy-nilly, India sort of once again gets hyphenated with Pakistan in this sort of board of peace that Trump is proposing. Alternately, there is also the risk that this could become the new sort of alternative United Nations, where the biggest crises in the world, the wars of the world, are being solved by this board of peace and not by the UN. We know the redundancies in the United Nations. India also has reservations of why this system has not been reformed. India has been claiming a permanent seat there and so on and so forth. So this could very well be a sort of alternative to the United Nations, and India could lose its chance to sort of burnish its credentials as a peacemaker in this region and this part of the world. So that's the risk that India loses out. But like I said, India will have to arrive at a judicious decision on whether or not to be part of this board of peace based on India's national interest. Will it be part of the conversation? For sure, yes. But I'm not sure if MBZ would want to sort of nudge India to take part or be a part of this board of peace, because that ultimately India has to arrive at that decision based on India's national interests.
Absolutely. Speaking about the bilateral trade, especially since we've seen the agreement that was signed back in 2022 between the UAE and India, we've seen a rise in trade, we've seen a rise in people-to-people ties as well. Is that something that will be taken forward? Are we looking at certain agreements or MOUs that could be signed on that front?
For sure. I mean, the CEPA got announced in 2022. The Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement was one of the first CEPAs that India has announced with any country. And the target that was given by both leaders back then was to reach $100 billion in trade by the end of the decade. But given how much trade itself has been appended by Trump and his tariffs, and he's really changed the whole global trading order, I think there's a visible increase of India's trade with the UAE, not least because the UAE has now emerged as sort of a transit point for Indian exporters who are trying to export to the US and to other countries in the Western world, primarily to try and circumvent their way around these extra tariffs that Trump has imposed. That, of course, is a short-term measure. That's not something that they can sustain in the longer run. But yes, in the sort of immediate past, we have seen an uptick in the trade that's outgoing, that's exports from India into the UAE, both for domestic consumption there as well as for transit into Western Europe or even to the United States. As far as people to people is concerned, like I said, from the 1960s, 70s onwards, there's been a very strong presence of the Indian diaspora. There are more than 4 million Indian expatriates who live and work in the UAE. They send a lot of remittance money. There was some disruption because of COVID, some shortfall that happened in the COVID years, but now we are back again to the levels of remittance that we have seen in the pre-COVID years. India, in fact, is the top receiver of remittances from abroad. And I think about 18% of India's remittances come from Indians who live and work in the UAE. So that, again, will be something that both leaders will discuss. But like I said, the important thing to watch out for would be if there is an announcement once these two leaders finish their dialogue and finish their meeting and come out and speak to the press on whether there is any mutual defense cooperation that's been agreed upon between India and the UAE. If it is, then I think it would send out a very, very strong signal to Saudi Arabia, to Pakistan, and it will also be very closely followed by the United States and by Donald Trump.
Speaking of the United States, and you were talking about the IMEC or the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, it was announced in 2023 after the G20 summit, but it seems that 2.5 years later, the progress sort of has decelerated also because of the kind of tariff war that we are seeing that Donald Trump has unleashed. Is that something that could be worked on? Is that something that the two leaders are looking to, give a new momentum to?
No, so look, IMEC will definitely be part of the conversations, but the reason why IMEC is completely suspended right now, or really no action is happening on IMEC, is because of the war that's happening in Gaza. That's been there since the last two years plus. And Israel is part of the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. Israel is, Haifa, in fact, is one of the key ports that will be part of the IMEC. So until that war resolves itself, until there is some kind of a lasting peace in Gaza and a lasting solution to this Israel-Palestine problem, I don't see IMEC really going forth that much. Even without the United States, is it possible to try and push this infrastructure project, which is critical for India, critical for many countries in the Middle East, and also indeed for Western Europe? Yes, it is possible, but is it really high up the pecking order for the Trump administration right now? I don't think so. I think the Trump administration is really looking at bilateral trade arrangements. It is not interested in this sort of globalized, sort of multilateral trading arrangement. It wants to cut individual deals, as it has done with, countries, whether it is its allied countries like Japan and South Korea, or countries in Europe, or even Britain for that matter. And of course, it has not cut these deals so far with very few countries, including India, Brazil, and of course with China. Their tariffs have been put in abeyance for a year till the summit between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping happens later this year. But I think it's going to be critical for India and the UAE, particularly for India, to show to not just the Americans or to the Europeans that, look, we are a large trading nation. We are in the top 10 trading nations in the world, and we want to expand our trade. We don't want to be impeded by Trump's tariffs. And if that issue is intractable or not getting resolved as quickly as India wants it to be resolved, then we have other partners with whom we would like to expand our trade. I think that is going to be an important signal that will be sent through this meeting. But like I said, it'll cover a gamut of areas, from technology to human resources to trade and tariffs that we talked about, and of course mutual defense. If it gets announced, that would be a significant step forward.
Right. Zaka, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. The Prime Minister there receiving the heads of state as he does in his style of diplomacy. Their bonhomie there being shared between the two world leaders, between the UAE President and the Prime Minister, also noticeable there. And pictures of that were tweeted by the Prime Minister himself. We'll, of course, find out what comes after these bilateral meetings are held. But for now, shifting focus to more news coming in. Actor turned politician and TVK chief Vijay has left the CBI headquarters in the national capital after 7 hours of questioning. Remember, this was his round 2 of questioning in the Karur stampede case. This questioning pertains to the stampede tragedy that claimed 41 lives in Karur in Tamil Nadu during one of his election rallies. Several questions were put forth by CBI sleuths to Vijay, including the 7-hour delay of him reaching the venue. TVK and Vijay had claimed that there were bottlenecks that were put in place by the state government, which is why he arrived late. That's something that he was confronted with. Video evidence from that day is also something that the CBI sleuths confronted Vijay with. 7 hours of questioning this time around. Round 1 was over 6.5 hours. It is a complete marathon questioning that the CBI has been putting Vijay through. Arunima, my colleague, now joins us. She's been tracking the developments from outside the CBI headquarters all this morning. For now, the questioning is over. Round 2. Is there going to be a round 3, Arunima?
So his team claims that Vijay has not been summoned for tomorrow. We have not heard from the CBI on this as yet. The indications are that after going through the evidence, all that Vijay has said today, the investigating officer is going to examine and then take a call about the next course of action. Now, the party General Secretary, Joint General Secretary Nirmal Kumar just briefed the media and said that pro-DMK media channels are spreading rumours and canards about Vijay. It is wrong to say that Vijay is now being treated as a suspect or that he's going to be named in the charge sheet. So his party is putting up a brave front, rejecting all charges, still maintaining that Vijay is cooperating with CBI, that he has not sought any kind of extension except for when Pongal was round the corner, and that he's cooperating, and CBI is appreciating that. But this is the version of Vijay's own party colleagues, his own team members. Officially, we have not heard from CBI. However, sources indicate that CBI has today put some tough questions to Vijay, asking him to provide evidence against the district administration, because the district administration has given to CBI video evidence saying Vijay and his party was to be blamed for the loss of lives.
Now, we've heard the politics that's happened on the sidelines, but as far as TVK's defense goes, they've put the blame squarely on the local administration and the police for whatever transpired. These bottlenecks is something that Vijay had also spoken of. That's something that he was confronted with during his questioning today?
That's what we learned by way of sources. And as I'm speaking to you, just want to show you the end of this road. This road here, once again, a lot of Vijay supporters coming into CBI. The main road there, that's the main road. The main carriageway also is seeing heavy traffic. And in the foreground here are some people who are Vijay supporters wanting to come and know what came of the CBI's questioning today. But that aside, you were asking about the bottleneck. The reason I showed you these scenes outside CBI, we're talking about Delhi, where the fan following of Vijay number-wise might be less. And think about Tamil Nadu, where he has such a huge fan following. The allegation from the local administration in Tamil Nadu is that he should have kept in mind that moving from Trichy to Karur, he would face fans who would want to have a glimpse of him. He did not keep that in mind and is now unnecessarily blaming the administration. Second, the claim by Tamil Nadu police is Vijay on his way from Trichy spent 2 hours when his carcade was not moving. So the allegation is that he took a break, he was resting for 2 hours while the crowd was waiting in sweltering heat, getting dehydrated. So the administration and the police can't be blamed for this decision that Vijay took. The blame must squarely rest with him and his organizers.
Well, the TVK and the state government, they're trading charges during the CBI questioning. Several people have been questioned, not just Vijay, but several police officers have been questioned by the CBI as well to try and piece together what exactly transpired and who should be held responsible for the loss of those 41 lives. For the moment though, Arunima, thank you so much for getting us the latest. Moving on now to some breaking news that's coming in from the National Capital Region, where there is a driver of an SUV whose brazen act of aggression has been caught on camera. A man has been run over in broad daylight. This SUV driver has run over a man in Manesar. The incident occurred near the Hayatpur village, where the car was driven over the man multiple times, is what we're given to understand. The victim has suffered serious injuries and has been admitted to the hospital. Anvit, my colleague, now joins us, getting us the latest on that front. Anvit, what exactly transpired?
See, this incident is being reported from Hayatpur area near Manesar, and what we're being told is that locals, found this man, the Scorpio driver, running over the car over a man in the locality, and police are trying to verify whether this was following a personal enmity, was it a fit of rage incident, or was there any incident following these two persons prior to this incident. So that is all being probed. This person, the driver of the Scorpio, we're being told, has been identified. Police teams are onto it to nab him, and the car has also been identified, so police are making searches to arrest the person as well as seize the car. What the video that has gone viral can clearly be seen that locals from that area are asking the man to get out of the way. However, the driver keeps on, ramming the car into the man, and also he drives over him a few times. In fact, people have been asking him to come out of the way, and however, none of them are, ready or having enough courage to step out and help that man. Is clearly be seen in the video. Also, we can see that the man, the Scorpio driver, reverses the car again, climbs over the man, and then again reverses the car and then drives over man. So multiple injuries have been caused to this man. We are being told he has been hospitalized with serious injuries to his legs, hands, and as well as pelvic area and also the back area. Injuries are kind of fatal, but so far the condition is fine. But police are saying that they are in touch with medical teams under whose supervision this man currently is. A case has been registered under grievous sections of rash driving and attempt to murder and other heinous sections. Police are investigating the matter. The car has been identified. The man has also been identified. Police teams are on to nab him, and the case is also being probed from all the possible angles now.
Has the driver been identified? Has any action been initiated apart from an FIR being filed on with?
See, the driver has been identified, what the police is saying. The car has also been identified, and they have found that the driver probably is a local person, and therefore they are trying to also question people known to that person to identify if he and the victim had any connection or any correlation was there, because the kind of incident this is, and video clearly shows that there is certain element of rage in it. The man is driving the car again and again over him, so police are trying to find if there was any previous or personal enmity case between the two. Also, whether it was a fit of rage case, what transpired actually, the locals who can be heard in the video asking the man to get out of the way and asking the Scorpio driver to stop the car, they have also been identified and they have also been questioned as to what they saw, what the witnesses saw, and witness statements have also been recorded. Based on that and based on the identification of the car and the accused, the suspect in this case, police are carrying on out their investigation. FIR has been registered, a case has been registered in the grievous section, and efforts are being to meet the arrest man and then also seize the vehicle that is accused in this case.
Right, Anvit, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. Staying with the National Capital Region, but shifting focus from Gurugram to Noida, uproar continues over the death of 27-year-old techie Yuvraj Mehta, who died when his car fell into a water-filled under-construction pit in Noida Sector 150. The postmortem report confirms he died of suffocation followed by cardiac arrest. Now, police have booked the builder for negligence. Residents say that the pit had been left open for years with no barricades, no lights or any warning signs. The Noida authority has also suspended a traffic cell official. Show cause notices have been issued and an investigation has been ordered to check why safety rules were ignored. UP Deputy Chief Minister, meanwhile, has confirmed that a high-level inquiry has been initiated, also assuring strict action. He said that no officer will be spared. But what CNN News 18 has learned is that there have been severe lapses on part of the Noida authority and of the state government because there were repeated complaints that were made. Despite that, no action was taken. In fact, when we spoke to Noida's CEO, he said that both the builders are under scrutiny and complaints are still being heard, but no word on any action being taken against anyone within the Noida authority who failed to do their job.
Doctor, you're also an MP of Noida. A very unfortunate incident has happened in Noida. How do you see that? How do you see such civic apathy? And also when there has been serious questions raised against fire department of Noida while they were there present, in spite of that, they couldn't help a drowning man.
It's painful. It's worrying also that in a city like Noida, where the technology, where the facilities, where the instrumentation was available, and it took us about 3 hours or so to save that young man. Somebody has to own this responsibility, and those people has to be penalized also. If such things happen, it will be a shame for us also. This event should not happen for anyone else also. We the party, we the government are with the suffering parents of that and the family members of that. It's a painful event.
विजय जी, नोएडा में एक बड़ा दर्दनाक हादसा हुआ। एक सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर था, वो मदद की गुहार लगाता रहा, लेकिन उसे कोई बचाने तक नहीं आया, मौत हो गई उसकी। बहुत ही दुखद घटना है और मैंने स्वयं उस घटने पे वीडियो देखे हैं। इस घटना में सरकार पीड़ित परिवार के साथ खड़ी है। इस दुख की घड़ी में मैं व्यक्तिगत रूप से और सरकारी तौर पर भी दुखी परिवार के साथ इस मामले में उच्च स्तरीय जांच के निर्देश दिए गए हैं। उच्च स्तरीय जांच आने के बाद जो भी दोषी होगा, कोई भी अफसर इसमें बचेगा नहीं, क्योंकि एक युवा इंजीनियर जिस ढंग से वीडियो में अपनी बातों को कह रहा है और उसमें पर्याप्त समय था कि इस स्थानीय अफसर जो अथॉरिटी के लोग हैं, SDRF के लोग हैं, वो लोग क्या कर रहे थे। इस घटना में जो भी दोषी पाया जाएगा उसके खिलाफ कड़ी से कड़ी कार्रवाई सुनिश्चित की जाएगी। नहीं लगता नहीं, इतने घंटे थे, 2 से 3 घंटे उसके पास, और अधिकारी वहां पर हाथ धरे बैठे रहे और उस बच्चे को बचाया जा सकता था, उस युवक को बचाया जा सकता था। कड़ी कार्रवाई, इसीलिए उच्च स्तरीय जांच के निर्देश दिए गए हैं। हर स्थिति में पीड़ित परिवार को न्याय मिले और ये बहुत ही दुखद घटना है, इसमें कोई भी दोषी बचेगा नहीं। सरकार इसको तय करेगी और मैं स्वयं इसकी मॉनिटरिंग करूंगा कि हर स्थिति में पीड़ित परिवार को न्याय मिले।
प्राधिकरण की ओर से संबंधित जो जेई है उनको सेवा मुक्त कर दिया गया वहाँ से, और इसके अलावा जो है संबंधित अन्य अधिकारियों का स्पष्टीकरण मांगा गया है। वो प्राइमा फेसी ये जो देखने की बात थी उसी के कारण किया गया है और विस्तृत से जांच चल रही है अभी, और अगर कोई कार्रवाई नहीं हुई है तो उसकी जिसकी लापरवाही उस पर कार्रवाई होगी।
कोई ऐसा ड्राइव चलाएगी नोएडा अथॉरिटी की इस तरह के जो स्पॉट्स हैं उनका सर्वे किया जाए या कुछ एक्शन लिया जाए ताकि आगे इस तरह के इंसिडेंट्स ना हो?
जी बिल्कुल, अभी हमारे सीओ साहब ने कल ही आदेश दे दिया है कि ऐसे सभी फील्ड में जा कर के देखेंगे सामान्यता भी देखते रहते हैं, और भी कोई ऐसा रह गया होगा कोई स्पॉट तो उसको देख करके उस पर शीघ्र कार्रवाई करेंगे।
Now, there are several questions that arise, and the Noida Authority, the state government of Uttar Pradesh, must answer all of those. Here are some of those questions that we still don't have any answers to. Why was the boundary wall of this construction site not fixed? Why were the builders not doing their job? Why is it that the Noida Authority did not pull up these builders up until now? Why were repeated complaints by locals ignored? Remember, we spoke to the residents of this area of Sector 150 in Noida. All of them said that this was a tragedy waiting to happen. Several complaints were raised, several letters were written. Despite that, no action was taken. What's even worse is that just a week ago, a truck had fallen into that same pit, and yet that boundary wall was not fixed. There were no signs, there were no warning signs, there was no barricading that was done as far as this pit went. Now, when these disaster relief teams actually arrive at the site, why is it that it took about 3 hours for these relief teams to actually get there? Is swimming not a part of police training? We asked this question because some of the police members who had reached the spot couldn't do anything because they said that there is water and mud there and we cannot swim, which is why we can't go there and save Yuvraj Mehta. We have to wait for technicians. Do emergency response teams not even carry a rope? Why is it that they had to depend on their skills of swimming or not being able to swim to actually save this person? Did they not have a rope? Could they not have called for a crane or a tow truck? And why did they have to wait for the SDRF to come in 3 hours later only for Yuvraj Mehta to drown there and die of asphyxiation? Anvit, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details on this. Anvit, there are several of these questions that still remain unanswered, and what's even worse is that the proof is mounting against the Noida authorities, against the civic body there, because clearly they haven't done their job. There were several letters that were written, several complaints that were filed, several work orders that were given to get this fixed, and yet nothing happened.
Certainly, Purnimansi, this tragic and unfortunate death of Yuvraj Mehta has clearly and undisputedly unveiled how crippled the system in Noida is, whether it be administrative or civic, or be it the policing system. The rescuers that had reached, to start with, they were very ill-equipped to deal with that situation. This man had been waving a torchlight and had been calling for help, had been crying for help. In fact, he himself called his father called the police on the spot. That even after 4 to 5 hours of delay, he could be retrieved only not alive. He was taken to hospital, he was pronounced dead. So that certainly is a failure of the system. Secondly, complaints have been filed by locals about this open pit since long. The administration as well as the authorities completely overlooked these complaints. No action was taken, no civic action was taken. A person concerned of the area, the JE, has been removed now, but only after this grievous incident has taken and a life has been lost. Despite that, if we come to the third point, water regulators were not installed. We have found a letter that clearly says in 2023, Irrigation Department had written to Noida Authority that water regulators need to be installed and constructed so that the accumulated water can be flushed out of the area, especially into the sector 150 that is mentioned in that letter. But despite that, despite funds being allocated, IIT Delhi being roped in, the regulators were not constructed. Had it been done, probably this rainwater and drainage sewage water that was accumulated in this pit, probably that would not have been there and this life could be probably saved. Fourth point, that no lessons was learned. 15 days ago, a similar incident had taken place when a truck driver had fallen into that pit, and he had also been crying for help. Locals gathered, locals helped him, administrative help did not arrive in time. 4 to 5 hours he spent in that water body, and then he had to be brought out with the help of locals who brought a ladder from somewhere, arranging it from somewhere, and then pulled him out. So in these 4 points, it clearly shows that how crippled the administrative system is, how crippled the policing and rescue system in this in the city is. Also, now after this all has happened, will there be accountability? Police have registered an FIR. Will officials from the Noida Authority or from the district administration be called for questioning? Will their statements be recorded? Will they be held accountable? Who will be taking accountability? Who will be held responsible for that? And will corrective measures be taken? We put all these questions to a CEO also, Satish Palji, and previously he told us that yes, CEO has ordered a detailed survey of such vulnerable stretches. They are also planning to make sure that areas are well lit, as the locals have complained. Also, repair works will be taken off near these drain areas and where the boundary walls are either not there or are weak. But all the action is being taken only after life has been lost, and at what cost? Just overlooking local complaints and sheer lack of will to make a better infrastructure for people who are living here.
And that's the most unfortunate bit. At least now we hope that there is some amount of action that takes place, that accountability is fixed and heads do roll. But for the moment, Anvit, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. On that note, it's time for a quick break on this edition of Nation at 5. But news and updates continue here, so don't go anywhere.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
The State Election Commission has decided to carry out the municipal elections using ballots and not EVMs. This is a major decision by the Karnataka State Election Commission, which has now decided to carry out elections for 369 wards in Bengaluru using the ballot paper. Remember, in September last year, in a crucial decision, the Karnataka Cabinet had recommended to the State Election Commission to use ballot papers in local body election after the vote chori allegations, and now the State Election Commission deciding to go ahead and carry out the GBA elections using the ballot paper. CNN News 18's Afreen Hussain now joins us for more on this. Afreen, a major decision there. It's a huge voter base that we are looking at, 369 wards spread across Bengaluru, 5 municipal bodies, and now the State Election Commission saying that they will carry out this election using ballot papers.
Well, absolutely, Harish, this is a very big decision by this Karnataka State Election Commission. They've decided to use ballot papers in the Bengaluru municipal election instead of the EVMs. Now, elections are going to be conducted for 369 wards, like you mentioned, and all of these wards are going to be using ballot papers for the polls. The GBA elections this time around, which are going to be held in May most likely, the State Election Commissioner has said that they're going to use ballot papers for, there may be many reasons. Once the state election takes a stand by consulting all the stakeholders in the matter, this is the action, the decision that has been taken by the Election Commission is what the Commissioner said. Even in last year, September, the Karnataka Cabinet had recommended to the State Election Commission to use ballot papers for local elections, and they're trying to implement this by using those for the GBA elections moving forward.
But Afreen, there are serious questions here. One, the magnitude of this whole exercise and the possibility of a delay. Second, it also raises questions on the EVM. The Congress government here passed a recommendation. The State Election Commission has accepted it. And you will see a lot of deliberation now taking place. Perhaps we'll have to see what the BJP says, even as the Supreme Court is now issuing a deadline, ensuring that the state completes GBA election before the end of June.
Well, absolutely, Harish. The Congress government here in Karnataka
in fact, I'll come back to you, Afreen. Afreen, in fact, I'll come back to you. Just give me a moment. We have BJP spokesperson S. Prakash joining us on the phone line. Mr. Prakash, we are looking at a huge voter base, 369 wards in Bengaluru, and now the State Election Commission saying that this crucial election will be carried out using ballot papers. We'll go back to Mr. Prakash. Afreen, coming back to you, there is a deadline of June end. The Supreme Court has issued it, so the elections have to happen. The Election Commission saying that their voter base is now ready, but it is going to be a humongous task to carry out this election using ballot papers.
It is going to be a very difficult task for the Election Commission to carry out elections in 369 wards. That's a large number of wards, and elections to be carried out by using ballot paper now seems to be a very difficult task for the Election Commission. However, they seem to be confident that it is a better choice for them to take instead of the EVM. So it remains to be seen how are they going to take this forward. What is the planning and preparations that's going to go in to conducting this election with using ballot papers? That's something that remains to be seen.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nation at 5. You're watching this broadcast with me, Poonam Burde. India is making a strong pitch at the World Economic Forum in Davos this year. There are global headwinds that are clouding the economic outlook, but New Delhi is showcasing its stable and consistent growth story as a beacon of confidence. Four senior union ministers alongside chief ministers of several states are leading the charge, highlighting India as a preferred investment destination. From AI innovation to infrastructure expansion, Team India is positioning itself as a reliable growth engine the world can count on. Network 18, in fact, has been reporting from Ground Zero with its finest team, bringing you ground reports from the heart of Davos. Listen in to these exclusive conversations and why it is that the world has confidence in India being the economic bright spot.
The world seems out of control.
Yeah, I think, well, if not out of control, certainly turbulent. But I think that's what President Trump likes it to be. He likes turmoil. He's certainly thrown the Greenland cat amongst the pigeons, the EU pigeons, and they're all panicking at the minute. They're all due to, well, many of them are due to be here, but I think Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister, was not, but he addressed the nation this morning on the Greenland issue. He thinks that President Trump is wrong on Greenland. I actually think President Trump has a point about Greenland. The question is, is this the best way to go about it? Maybe it's better to work through NATO or work through rather than against. But he is a real estate guy, so he believes in ownership. Corporate profitability is strong and companies are doing well. GDP in America is forecast to increase this year by 2.6, 2.8%. I think Goldman are up at the top end. I think the average is around 2.5. But the world is probably going to grow a little bit under 3%. China, 5%, came in with 5% for last year. Mm-hmm. This year, similar. India, stellar 6%. Modi on fire. So, having said with all the uncertainty, US-China relationships not in a great state, Russia, Ukraine, Iran and the Middle East, despite all that, inflation not down at 2%, but trending towards that. Interest rates on a downward path, maybe going to go lower, depending on who the Fed chairman is going to be. So we'll see. But it's a difficult world. And I think in that world, companies got to think very carefully where they expand. That's one thing. And they've got to improve their efficiency by adopting AI at greater scale.
Right. Which brings me to my next question. Can India be a pocket of stability in an increasingly turbulent world?
Stability can be a pocket of growth. So as you look around the world, India would be right up there, as the fifth largest economy in the world, over 5 billion. So even bigger than Nvidia.
Trump is in focus this week. Amidst the differences that we are seeing between US, Europe, other countries, what will this mean for the future of AI? Because it's also become a strategic priority. People are also talking about how China seems to have outpaced other countries in many areas. How is this going to evolve?
So let me speak to some of the implications for India about this, if that's okay. I feel like US and China are the two AI powerhouses. US becoming less immigrant friendly, I think, is a huge unforced error. I feel like in the United States has been fortunate to have so many skilled immigrants from India and many other nations want to come to the United States to work with us. As an immigrant to the US myself, I feel like it's been such a blessing, and to make it harder for these wonderful immigrants to join us in the United States, and not just currently high-skilled immigrants, but that 17, 18-year-old college student that will be high school in the future. I think that's a huge unforced error. And at the same time, for the human element of it, I have so many friends in the US that have lived there for 10 years, kids born in the US, bought a house, but still in line for a green card. And this turmoil and disruption, I've seen how it shakes up families, and I think that's been really awful at a human level. Now, speaking to India, one of the things that has been talked about widely in India is the concept of sovereign AI.
That's right.
Because it makes sense for India to not want, a different nation, friendly or hostile, or a single business to control India's access to AI technology. And so I was thrilled to see the increased investments in India, India's discussions about having India's startups go global. But at the same time, there's one thing I want to put up for consideration, which is India uses lots of, say, computing programming languages. It uses a Linux operating system that India doesn't own and control, but are open source. And that means that no other country or no other company can mess with India's ability to access it. So it turns out that one relatively efficient, relatively cheap way to ensure India's continued access to cutting-edge AI is not necessarily to build everything internally, although that'd be fine with enough money and resources, is to contribute to open source, because if it's open, then no one can mess with it. And in terms of geopolitics, Chinese open source models have really taken off. Chinese open source models are ahead of the US open source ones, right? Many of them are. And this gives China tremendous geopolitical influence, because when someone asks an AI model a question, if a developer, because they took a Chinese open model, because it's open, incorporated into the software, then that software would be more likely to answer the question in a way that reflects the values of the nation of origin of that model. And so whether or not India wants a world where a lot of the world is using models from China reflecting that set of values would be one question that I think India and many other nations are asking ourselves, especially when we decide how much to invest in open research and open models. And open models means you don't control it, but no one else, no adversary can do so either.
Yeah. In fact, your views on India come just ahead of the Global AI Impact Summit that's happening next month. What do you think India should focus on apart from the open source angle that you mentioned?
I think that today, this is a good time to be investing heavily in AI. And I don't just mean pouring massive numbers of dollars into data center infrastructures. I think some of that is good, but I mean even more important is the upskilling. And we spoke earlier about jobs.
Right.
Although the disruption has not yet come, the outsourced professional services, IT services industry, that is at risk because people that know AI will replace people that don't. And if India's industry goes through this industry transformation and upskills people, then the workforce, highly talented, skilled, many of my friends love the work of this population, will be able to keep providing even higher level services. But if for some reason individuals don't upskill quickly enough, then the outsourced industry will face a lot of challenges. So I feel like at Coursera, at DeepLearn.ai, we try to do a lot of work to serve India specifically, and I feel a lot of urgency to to make sure that India has the resources to upskill the population with AI.
I just want to begin with what your CEO Bill said recently. He said that ServiceNow will have the only AI control tower that will drive workflow and business outcomes across enterprises and environments. Tell us how the last year has been for you, and what does 2026 look like?
Well,
are you ready to have the AI control tower?
Well, Chandra, great to be with you. Thanks for having me. No one says it better than Bill. Listen, AI is a fast-moving period of technological change. It's a period of cultural change. There's a lot of things happening at the same time. So when you think about ServiceNow and the role we play as the AI control tower, there are certain things that you just don't want to leave to chance, right? Just because you can experiment with consumer technologies, there are certain things that rise to the level of make or break mission critical. So IDC, as an example, is predicting that there will be more than 1 billion AI agents moving around the global economy by 2029. How are we going to regulate those? How are we going to make sure that we know which agents are allowed to have access to which data, which agents are running through which systems? So ServiceNow as the AI control tower really puts us in the center of the governance and security conversation, and that's exactly where our customers want us to be.
Right. And in terms of the demand from enterprises, everybody tells us that AI is top of mind in boardrooms. People want to do more in AI. So are you seeing more conversions from a POC perspective, proof of concept perspective? Are companies beginning to see real ROI on AI investments?
I think from a macro perspective, when anything is new, it is the metaphor of throwing spaghetti at a wall to see what sticks, right? Organizations go through that, and I think to your point, now what we're seeing is most enterprises are saying, okay, I'm tired of experimenting. Help me understand where can I actually see meaningful ROI from solutions that we trust, where we can then say, if people are able to save time because they're not doing certain kinds of work that they used to have to do, because now in our case, Now Assist is doing it for them, we can have our people focus on new ideas so that we can grow our businesses. So I think growth is a big theme for 2026. I think reinvestment is a big theme for 2026, and upskilling for people is a big theme for 2026, all of which I think play really well into our stated goal of putting AI to work for people.
Right. So have they stopped flinging spaghetti at the wall and have they finally realized what sticks?
I think in some cases there's still some spaghetti on the wall, but I think as a general rule, they're looking at us saying we've trusted ServiceNow for more than a decade, and we know that ServiceNow is making all of these investments into the ServiceNow AI platform. So they want value from partners that they trust, and increasingly you're hearing this platform strategy, right? We don't want 1,000 different AI solutions running crazy in our organization. Give it to us in a way that we know how to use it, in a way where we can prove, like you said, that there's meaningful ROI. And again, we don't want to take the risk with something that is untrusted. Trust is a major theme.
Right. And in terms of, measurable ROI, again, is there some way, a tangible way to quantify what kind of productivity gains is translating to, or is it too early in the cycle? I mean, in terms of the pricing trends, will that change?
I think you're able to see major themes now. For example, if you just take ServiceNow's own experience with using our own AI in our own company, we have things that used to be done by people on both sides. So a person would say, I have an issue, and then a person would remediate that issue. That is happening completely autonomous now because the AI agents are actually productive. They're trained on the right data set, and the agents themselves can coordinate to get that kind of work done. So when you're seeing with people gaining 10, 20, 30% of productivity back, then they're able to say, I'm free. What new and exciting things can I work on? And ultimately, to me, that's the big thing. Like, if we're trying to make AI a net positive for humanity, right? We want a better world. We want to solve big challenges. Then the people should feel energized and inspired, because the productivity they're experiencing, which you can demonstrate, is actually translated into new and exciting, meaningful work for them to do.
From Delhi to Davos, India steps onto the world stage, selling a phenomenal growth story.
All states that have delegations from India are going to be on one floor. So it's going to be competitive federalism at its best. 9 states on the same floor. You can see these are the states that are going to make it from India this year. I think it's one of the biggest delegations.
Stung by uncertainty, global capital hunts for certainty.
President Trump is coming to Davos in person this year, and he's bringing with him what is set to be the largest US delegation to Davos ever. This is going to be an interesting Davos because President Trump comes to Europe at a time when he's made no bones about the fact that he wants Greenland.
Delhi to Davos, CNN News 18. World's business is our business.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
The State Election Commission has decided to carry out the municipal elections using ballots and not EVMs. This is a major decision by the Karnataka State Election Commission, which has now decided to carry out elections for 369 wards in Bengaluru using the ballot paper. Remember, in September last year, in a crucial decision, the Karnataka cabinet had recommended to the State Election Commission to use ballot papers in local body election after the vote chori allegations, and now the State Election Commission deciding to go ahead and carry out the GBA elections using the ballot paper. CNN News 18's Afreen Hussain now joins us for more on this. Afreen, a major decision there. It's a huge voter base that we are looking at, 369 wards spread across Bengaluru, 5 municipal bodies, and now the State Election Commission saying that they will carry out this election using ballot papers.
Well, absolutely, Harish, this is a very big decision by this Karnataka State Election Commission. They've decided to use ballot papers in the Bengaluru municipal election instead of the EVMs. Now, elections are going to be conducted for 369 wards, like you mentioned, and all of these wards are going to be using ballot papers for the polls. The GBA elections this time around, which are going to be held in May most likely, the State Election Commissioner has said that they're going to use ballot papers for, there may be many reasons. Once the state election takes a stand by consulting all the stakeholders in the matter, this is the action, the decision that has been taken by the Election Commission is what the Commissioner said. Even in last year, September, the Karnataka cabinet had recommended to the State Election Commission to use ballot papers for local elections, and they're trying to implement this by using those for the GBA elections moving forward.
But Afreen, there are serious questions here. One, the magnitude of this whole exercise and the possibility of a delay. Second, it also raises questions on the EVM. The Congress government here passed a recommendation. The State Election Commission has accepted it. And you will see a lot of deliberation now taking place. Perhaps you'll have to see what the BJP says, even as the Supreme Court is now issuing a deadline, ensuring that the state completes GBA election before the end of June.
Well, absolutely, Harish. The Congress government here in Karnataka
in fact, I'll come back to you, Afreen. Afreen, in fact, I'll come back to you. Just give me a moment. We have BJP spokesperson S. Prakash joining us on the phone line. Mr. Prakash, we are looking at a huge voter base, 369 wards in Bengaluru, and now the State Election Commission saying that this crucial election will be carried out using ballot papers. We'll go back to Mr. Prakash. Afreen, coming back to you, there is a deadline of June end. The Supreme Court has issued it, so the elections have to happen. The Election Commission saying that their voter base is now ready, but it is going to be a humongous task to carry out this election using ballot papers.
It is going to be a very difficult task for the Election Commission to carry out elections in 369 wards. That's a large number of wards. And elections to be carried out by using ballot paper now seems to be a very difficult task for the Election Commission. However, they seem to be confident that it is a better choice for them to take instead of the EVM. So it remains to be seen how are they going to take this forward. What is the planning and preparations that's going to go in to conducting this this election with using ballot papers? That's something that remains to be seen. However, the Congress government in Karnataka has repeatedly said that the GBA elections would be conducted in line with the Supreme Court's decision as well. So it remains to be seen how the BJP is going to react. Now, remember that the usage of ballot papers is coming amidst Congress's charge of vote chori against the BJP. So it remains to be seen how the BJP is going to respond to this.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nation at 5. European Union ambassadors held an emergency meeting in Brussels after US President Donald Trump threatened to impose tariffs on allies unless a deal is reached for the US to purchase Greenland. EU officials said that they would prefer talks over confrontation, but are also considering moving ahead with a €93 billion worth of retaliatory tariffs prepared last year. Officials noted that responding with tariffs on goods would be a milder step. In fact, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer spoke to President Donald Trump, saying it's wrong to impose tariffs on allies for pursuing NATO's collective security. He also spoke with leaders of Denmark, the European Commission and NATO, stressing that Greenland and security in the High North are shared priorities.
We don't take Greenland. Russia or China will take Greenland, and I am not going to let that happen.
deal they can offer you? Either like
yeah, sure. I'd love to make a deal with them. It's easier. But one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland.
Volevo dirvi che la previsione di un aumento dei dazi nei confronti di quelle nazioni che hanno scelto di contribuire alla sicurezza della Groenlandia, secondo me è un errore e ovviamente non la condivido. Credo che sia un errore oggi imporre nuove sanzioni, credo che sia necessario invece riprendere su questo il dialogo, evitare una escalation da questo punto di vista ed è quello su cui sto lavorando.
Shifting focus now to the world of cricket, Virat Kohli's fighting century in Indore was a masterclass in determination and skill, but it ultimately wasn't enough to prevent New Zealand from scoring a historic ODI series win in India. Beyond the batting struggle, Shubman Gill's captaincy came under the spotlight once again, critics pointing out to moments where field placements and tactical decisions lacked proactivity. Senior players were often seen setting fields themselves, leaving questions about Gill's on-field presence during these critical phases. Here's a roundup.
New Zealand have done the unthinkable in Indore. A 41-run win, a 2-1 series triumph, and India suffered their first ever bilateral ODI series defeat at home against the Kiwis, despite a vintage Virat Kohli 100 that lit up the night. Put into bat, New Zealand rode out early pressure to post a commanding 337 for 8. Daryl Mitchell was ice cool, anchoring the innings with a Together, they added 219 for the fourth wicket after New Zealand were 58 for 3, completely turning the game on its head. India's reply never settled. Early wickets hurt, and at 71 for 4, the chase looked fragile. Virat Kohli stood tall, fighting the battle almost alone with a magnificent 124 of 108 balls, his 54th ODI 100. Nitish Kumar Reddy and Harshit Rana chipped in with the crucial half-centuries, giving India a flicker of hope, but the asking rate kept climbing. The standout performer was Daryl Mitchell, a second straight 100 in the series. Total control under pressure. Virat Kohli produced a fighting 100 under pressure, scoring 124 while anchoring India's chase of 338. With wickets falling around him, Kohli mixed composure with calculated aggression, keeping India's hopes alive almost single-handedly. The decisive moment came late. With India still believing, Kohli fell at 292 for 9, caught in the deep. That was the end. New Zealand closed it out calmly, sealing a historic series win on Indian soil.
The OTT slate for 2026 is looking stacked with some of the biggest fan favourite shows gearing up for their next installments, from Bridgerton Season 4 to Euphoria Season 3 and The Boys Season 5. The new year is already buzzing with excitement. Here are the top 5 shows all set to make a grand return. I'm leaving you with that.
"2026 has barely begun, and honestly, it's already looking like the year of OMG, it's finally back TV moments. Whether you are a fan of soft romance or messy teenage heartbreak, this year's lineup has something for everybody. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the biggest returning shows of 2026. Internet's favorite escape into corsets, scandals and swoon-worthy slow burns is officially back. This time, it's Benedict Bridgerton's turn to fall hopelessly in love with Sophie Bake, a masked mystery woman inspired by Sophie Beckett from the books but with a Korean twist, thanks to actress Yerin Ha joining the cast. Netflix is dropping it in 2 parts because emotional torture is clearly their love language. Part 1 releases on January 29 and Part 2 on February 26. Superhero actioner The Boys returns for its 5th and final season, marking the end of a series that redefined superheroes as bloody, political, deeply unhinged and yet completely addictive. Expect brutal satire, questionable ethics, and the ultimate showdown when it premieres in April 2026 on Prime Video. Up next, we have Euphoria Season 3, finally dropping on Jio Hotstar after what felt like 600 years. Zendaya returns as Rue in a darker, more introspective chapter that digs into trauma, addiction, broken friendships, and the messy search for identity. The long-awaited season streams from April 12 on Jio Hotstar and had already sparked major buzz on the internet.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The tremors of Maharashtra civic elections, where BJP emerged as the single largest party by far, are being felt in Karnataka now. The State Election Commission has decided to hold upcoming local body elections, including the marquee Bengaluru polls, via ballot papers. Now, this fits very neatly in the Congress worldview that BJP is winning elections due to EVM or electoral roll manipulation. The Commission itself did not specify any particular reason for the shift, simply stating that the law allows for it. But we do know that the decision follows a recommendation made last year by the Siddaramaiah-led Karnataka cabinet to conduct all future local body elections using ballot papers. Law